Okay, good questions. So the main company or the main stock, I would say, that I trade for futures, which we're doing right now, is the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq holds Apple, Nvidia. It holds like the big tech stocks all in one stock. So that's the Nasdaq, right? And for options, I trade SPY, which is the S&P 500. Those are literally, and so S&P 500, if you guys don't know, it holds like the major companies, similar to the Nasdaq, right? So those are the only two stocks that I trade. Is one the Nasdaq, which is MQ, and then SPY. Those are the only two I trade. Why? Because they hold all the other companies in those stocks, so they get the greatest movements. Yeah, you could trade an individual stock and do all that stuff, but for me, I'm sticking to what I know and what works. So that's one. And then number two, what are the main? How do you determine risk management? So guys, that's key right there, right? That's a great question. Risk management. How would I determine that? So for an example, let's say let's say I take a trade and out of that trade, I'm only willing to risk $50, right? To possibly make over $50, right? So, for example, there was a trade I took last week where I only risked $50. And what I mean by that is that if the trade went against me $50, I would have gotten out of that trade. However, when I got into that trade, it never went against me $50. So I was staying within my risk because as I got into that trade, the trade went positive. And next thing you know, since I risked that $50, I walked away with $300 plus. So that was a good trade. That's how I'm able to define my risk. That's one way. The second way I'm able to define my risk is how much money do I have in my account? That's one. How much money am I willing to risk per trade? Right? So say I have $1,000 account and then I take a trade. Doesn't necessarily mean I have to trade with that whole thousand. I could trade with like 500 of it. And out of that 500, you have to ask yourself the question, how much are you willing to lose out of that $500? And if you're only willing to risk $100, then that's going to be your stop. So if you go negative $100, you're going to get out of that trade. And out of your whole account, you only lost $100. So you still have $900, right? So that's, are you guys kind of understanding of the risk when it comes down to trading? That's how you want to see it. You always want to protect your downside. So for example, we come back to today, that trade I took my trade. I wanted to give it a little room to see what it did. And I was up, if you guys remember, I was up like probably like 20, $30, but then it went back down and I ended up losing like $290, right? So I was still within my risk because per day, I'm only willing to lose or risk a certain amount. So until if I don't hit that amount, then that gives me the ability to still be in the game and still wait for another opportunity, right? So let's say, for example, I'm only willing to risk $600. So if I'm not at $600, then I can still probably like play the game, right? If I want to, if the opportunity presents itself, I could trade again, right, and make some money, right? Um, but yeah, so for me, like right now, my risk tolerance for the day is $630. If I lose $630, then I'm done for the day. I'm shutting off the computer, I'm walking away, and I'm calling it a day. I'm gonna wait till tomorrow, right? That's my max loss for the day. But in between, if I have a few losses here and there, it's still within my risk. I'm fine. Like right now, I'm fine. I lost $290, but I'm still able to make that back if I see another opportunity. And if I don't see another opportunity, I'm not going to force a trade. I'm just going to wait. And if nothing else happens today, say if it stays like this, the only thing I lost was $290, right? tomorrow, like I have the opportunity to make double that, triple that, quadruple that, So like you can't let a little loss bother you, but it will bother you if you don't know how to control it. That's when it's going to get bad. But if you're able to use that risk management, that's how you do it. I know it was kind of long for risk management, but I want you guys to really understand the importance of risk management because that is key. Without risk management, guys, like you will lose. Seriously. All right. So I hope you guys understood that.